rock it.
So, I'm going to go ahead and open up this workshop for March 26, 2019. If you'll all join me in the pledge. I'm not going to skip it. We're going to do it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Let's do it.
Right. So since we have school and water right here in our audience, why don't we get school to lead off for the capital improvement plan if they would like.
You want to do roll call?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. I jumped the gun. Look at me. Hard stop at 8 o'clock.
Okay, Councillor Albert.
Here.
Councillor Rochelle.
Here.
Councillor Brunel.
Here.
Councillor Lund.
Here.
Councillor Ward.
Here.
Councillor Kolb. Yes. All present. Next item, budget workshop.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think it's prudent to actually acknowledge the fact that if anybody doesn't know that Mr. Fillmore passed away over the weekend. May not always have agreed with him, but he was definitely somebody that was actively engaged in town politics. So, the information for his services is out there for Saturday, so be looking for it. The family actually has put that information out there. Thank you.
I agreed. One thing about Larry, he knew where he stood. He made it very plain. So
I was going to be that guy that asked for a moment of silence, but that doesn't sound like Larry.
no. On the contrary, you want to do him a favor? Cut one of the lines that we're about to talk about. Just kidding. Larry. We appreciated every time you came out and worked with us and helped us.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. That being said, let's move forward if we would. Ask the school. We're going to start with the school. Everybody's good with that?
Good evening, all.
Good evening, Alan. I don't believe that we do. There you go. You do now.
Absolutely, you can. I apologize.
Thank you.
We all set?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay. This is the Lisbon School Department, Department, 5-year building plans, grounds, equipment, and technology. On March of 2019. The following is a list of items that the Lisbon School Department deems necessary for capital improvements over the next 5 years. Capital improvements shall mean any construction project exceeding $10,000 and any equipment purchase to be bonded or to be budgeted for more than one fiscal year. The current balance is $11,675. I did not have a current balance today. We were trying to work on that, but this is the last balance we had last meeting. What I'd like to do is go down all the known priorities in every building, and then I'm going to go through all the improvements we did in 2018-2019 fiscal year, if that's okay with everybody. Central office, Gartley Street School. Our known priorities: continue to maintain existing facilities and make repairs as needed. Upgrade the safe rooms. Repaving around the building. Continue to upgrade the kitchen to make it more self-sufficient. Install additional security cameras and recording equipment to monitor the central office. Monitor the roof for leaks for areas. That'll be areas over the next 5-year plan. Work completed in 2018-19 to improve a approved referendum vote in 2017. Capital improvements were made as a result of the Phase 2 performance contract with Siemens in the fall of 2018. We installed a new hot water tank to support the kitchen usage as part of the Phase 2 plan. Replaced exterior doors and windows throughout the building on the Phase 2 plan. Replaced the univents, pneumatic controls, and added a CO2 monitor for the gym, part of the Phase 2 plan also. Installed new playground equipment for the Gartley Street School, November 2018. We upgraded one safe room in February of 2019. Lisbon Community School, known priorities. Continue to maintain existing facilities and make repairs as needed. Upgrade and maintain the playgrounds. Continue to replace classroom carpet with tile. We're looking at the tile. The carpet is 14 years old. We're currently taking up. There's 2 rooms to a unit, and we're taking up 2 rooms at a time and replacing it with tiles. 14-year-old carpet. Many kids have seen the carpet, so that's a plan there. Monitoring the roof shingles as a result of a significant wear they were showing since the 2012 inadequate ventilation. Also, there's one I did not add on there. This, I thought of, and I apologize. And we are developing a safe, quiet room also at Lisbon Community School. I had to go through get a bunch of approvals prior, and I've received all those, and it's in the works now for that safe room.
So the budgeting for that particular safe room, will it be on par with the ones that were at Gartley as well? Same idea?
Same idea, yes. Probably the most expensive thing I've run across right now is the door, the safe room door. Other than, that's going to come out of our capital budget.
The specialty item, is that why it's different than what they have over at Gartley, or the same?
Same idea. It is, but what the Gartley is all wood framing. This is all metal framing.
Right.
So it's a different door, different handles. It's just a simple push button handle. So the teachers, what they're doing is they're trying to hold the door right now, so the students just to calm down, a de-escalation room. And this is just a special handle. You can push it with one finger, and it just latches the door, so nobody's going to be getting hurt at all. So there's no wear and tear on somebody's wrist, trying to open and close the door. So
Makes sense.
that'll be done, at the very least by the beginning of this next school year. So that'll be accomplished.
So that's just the only add-on that's not listed here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the work completed is we replaced carpets in 2 of the rooms in February. We replaced the kiln in the art room. We had 2 kilns. One was brought to LCS when LCS was open in 2004 from the high school. We upgraded the gym, the phone system. That went online approximately a week ago. We're still working out a few kinks, but it's coming along great. It's everything's compatible. All of our buildings are in the same system now. So that was a big stickler for the public trying to get through to Lisbon Community School. Philip W. Sugg, known priorities. Replacing all unit vents, pneumatic controls, and installing a heat recovery ventilator for the gym. Continue to maintain existing facilities and make repairs as needed. Repaving the entrance in parking lots. Continue to replace lunch tables. Update the electrical and tables in the music room, which is upstairs. Renovate locker rooms. Renovate the bathrooms. Replace all the ceiling tiles in the gym. Repair the roof as needed. Areas that will be part of the 5-year plan. Go page 5, what we've accomplished in, yes, sir.
Ceiling tiles in the gym?
The gym, yeah, there's all the ceiling tiles need to be replaced there.
The old gym or the new gym?
This is at Sugg.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Hey, but while we're there,
Focus.
yeah.
while we're there though,
Yes,
the
sir.
heat recovery ventilator, is that part of the overall plan that we have with Siemens? Is that rolled in there?
That's what we're trying to work on with Siemens, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, what we've accomplished for 2018-19, we have replaced 3 of the lunch tables. They're about $1,500 a piece, so that's why we're piecemealing it. They're pretty expensive. Installed new energy-efficient lighting throughout the school. That made a huge difference in all the classrooms. Lisbon High School, known priorities. Refurbish the bathrooms. We're talking 100, 200, 300 wings. They've been there since, we all know how long they've been
They
there.
still have no doors, some of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We're trying to, what we're trying to do is we're trying to model what we had in the new gym, the new section. So we're trying to design it in that similar to that format. So they walk to east to the left or the right. So the doors should not be an issue this way.
Perfect.
Look at removing the large oak trees in the main entrance. A lot of them trees, we've had 2 of them removed, and we've got to probably have to take down a couple more this year. they're starting to, they're splitting. They've been right.
Be sad to see him go.
Very sad, yes. Develop plans for converting the old gymnasium into community performing arts center. Repaving. Monitor the roof of lakes. Develop a plan to utilize the new gymnasium as an emergency shelter. The development of a life cycle preventative maintenance funding plan to repair and ultimately refinish the gym will be part of the 5-year plan. Work completed on 2018-19. We've replaced univets, pneumatic controls, roof exhaust fans, and the boilers. We went from that one huge boiler to we have 2 in case one's offline, the other one kicks in. It's a fantastic setup down there. Installed gas service into the kitchen and replaced all the equipment in the kitchen. All the equipment in the kitchen is now gas operated. We've hired Scott Simon's Architects to perform a feasibility study to convert the old gymnasium into a community performing arts center. The grounds, known priorities. Installation of security cameras and recording equipment to monitor the practice and playing fields, playing areas. Create access to the Lisbon Trail system. Repair structures and improve drainage, corrosion issues at the baseball field. Resurface the football practice field. Replace the football scoreboard, which is in the works. Repairing existing fencing. Manage irrigation and monitor usage to improve the health and conditions of the football and soccer fields. Build an additional storage facility for track and related equipment. Install the donated field lights will be part of the 5-year plan. Work completed 2018-19. We've replaced the scoreboards with the exception of the football scoreboard. Again, that's in the works. Removed the hockey rink and created a practice field for the youth sports. Track, known priorities. The development of a life cycle preventive maintenance funding plan to repair and ultimately refinish and paint the track will be part of the 5-year plan. Repainting the lines on the track, and I'm working with a contractor right now to get the lines. Every 5 years, you're supposed to paint the lines. In the summer, we're due, so that'll be done. Football, known priorities. Replacing the grass surface. Working on a plan to maintain the grass surface. Practice fields and areas, known priority. Discussion related to adding additional practice areas will be part of the 5-year plan. The soccer, known priorities. Organization and cleanup behind the soccer field will be part of the 5-year plan. Baseball, softball. Loam and seed the bank next to the baseball field. Monitor infield and outfield surfaces on the softball baseball field. Work completed 2018. Refurbished the backstop of the softball field. The softball outfield was leveled and fertilized. New softball scoreboard was installed. Field hockey, there's none there because that's part of the baseball outfield in which we're working on the grass. Equipment, known priorities. Continue replacing existing equipment as needed. Floor scrubbers at 3 schools, all 3 schools. Need replacing with the Lisbon Community School taking priority. A cycle for replacing our existing equipment will be developed and monitored prior to the development of a new budget. Page 10, vehicles. Known priorities. Continue replacing existing vehicles as needed and monitor the replacement cycle prior to the development of the new budget. Continue replacing old buses funded through the state reimbursement 3-year lease purchase agreement. We have been approved for 3 buses. We're just waiting on the approval of the budget so I can get them ordered. That's good there. Maintenance garage, just storage, page 11, known priorities. Additional storage for track and related equipment needs to be built or purchased for the track area. We're in dire need of storage. It's just how it is. Other, asphalt driveways, the known priorities. Repair the asphalt driveways at the high school and middle school, or possibly move the driveways in consideration of traffic circulation based on any new design changes. We're looking at traffic flow. We're just, that's just out there. I'd like to see it. Buses go one way, students go the other, bus drop off. If the buses came in, they went to the left, they'd be dropped off on door side without having to worry about cross traffic. And this, that's just something we're just looking into. Repair the driveway at Gartley Street School. Pave the lot by the tennis courts to create additional parking. Pave a driveway to the football field to control erosion. Develop a life cycle preventive maintenance plan funding to require all district-wide driveways to be part of the 5-year plan. Page 12, technology, known priorities. Monitor the wireless networks at each building. Purchase technology to strengthen existing resources, MLTI program. Examine the continued growth of cloud computing, including current and future technology trends will be part of the 5-year plan. That's all I have for you folks, unless you have questions.
Chair, may I?
Go ahead.
Alan, in most areas you actually were saying that you were going to work on developing a replacement plan. Does that mean we have none in place right now?
We have the 5-year plan, right? But
Thank you.
it is.
Yeah. But I mean, when it comes to the idea, and I know we talked about this facility meetings, the idea of replacing the track surface, which we knew was a 7-year, was it 7 or 8 years after purchase?
5 for paint, and then I've got the numbers all. As a matter of fact, I just got all
And
those
after
numbers.
7, it was actually a complete replacement, right? Which
12.
was
12 is a complete replacement.
12,
That's a big yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do
But
have
there's
that numbers.
but there's no plan in place right now for the funding of that.
Correct. Correct.
The other one too that they had mentioned, I think in the back, which may be part of the asphalt, is the ceiling and the crack ceiling of the new pavement at the high school. Is that part of the plan that's going to be developed also?
The cracked what? I'm sorry.
The new high school parking lot
Yeah.
is basically all cracked and broken up like every other pavement area around that we have in town. Is that something that you plan on sealing or crack fixing at all, just to try to save that? Or
Actually, I'm meeting with my God.
not to get specific, I was just
No,
wondering
you're
if
not
that's
getting
part of
specific.
part of the-
I am meeting with a paving company because
Yeah.
a lot of this is beyond
Yeah.
the ceiling and the
Yeah.
crack repairs.
Yeah.
So I need to actually get somebody in there that can really speak to it more than I can.
And that's part of the
Get their-
repair and the plan.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Prioritization and scope. There's a lot of big ticket items here. How are we going to attack that? Good question.
Yes, sir. I don't have that answer.
No, I don't expect that you would.
Yeah.
I'm sure that
There is a lot of big ticket
there's
items
a lot of
here.
big ticket items. So I'm sure that it'll take a lot of thought to come up with a plan, a meaningful plan, because there's no easy way that all of these get addressed.
I believe our
In a
priority.
5-year plan.
That's right. Our priority we need to is the roofs. We're addressing the roofs a lot. That's going to be on the buildings. They're probably
Chair, can I echo off that?
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Thank you, Alan.
Yes, sir.
When the town does theirs, Alan, we have the 5-year schedule of what it's going to look like by topic, by dollar.
Mhm.
I made the request, and I know it's probably gone to Rick as well. I think that would help, just to be able to keep us clued in when we're seeing these things. What are we expecting this year? What's the total cost of these things? I know it's a little bit different in the packaging and the way that you guys do the fund balance, because it comes throughout the course of the year for specific projects, but it would front end that with what we're expecting to hear for those topics throughout the course of the year.
Thank you. And we did address that today, and the next presentation,
Yeah.
I will have it in the format.
No,
That,
this is year 2 with the consolidated for everybody, so
Yeah.
I appreciate it as we're moving towards that goal. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, we did work on that today. I tried to get it out for you today. There was
All right.
A lot of information there, yeah.
there's a lot. I was shocked actually how comprehensive yours was, and mine will be that way next time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Chair, may I?
Absolutely.
Not to drag you back in.
I'm trying to run.
I don't blame you, buddy.
Just a general question.
Yes,
again.
sir.
With the Siemens plans and the performance programs we were putting in place, so those seem to be running on task as far as for the savings that we were looking at, as far as for the efficiencies with
Absolutely.
the lightings and the heatings and everything.
That,
So those plans are,
prior year was ahead of projection.
Yep.
This year, I'm not sure what it is yet.
yeah.
But yes, they're,
I know in the earlier part of it, it was the bigger ticket items that actually were going to show more return, and then as you went on, some of the projects are actually going to be needed projects, but not maybe the biggest returns. But
correct.
But they're still all producing though.
The biggest returns, like you said, we did attack first, and it's
Yeah,
less of a return now. Correct.
Yeah.
But I think the kitchen one is going to be a huge one that we just did at the high school, where we converted that from electricity over to gas. So I think that's going to be a big ticket for us.
Perfect. Thank you.
Savings.
A lot of nice accomplishments here, so I want to take a moment to acknowledge you. Usually when you get in the hot seat, it's usually you get a lot of questions, and we're going to have those, but nice job with what you guys have done so far, and some pretty lofty expectations for going forward. So anything we can do to help.
It's been a pleasure working with you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Am I all set now?
Run
Sorry,
for it.
I didn't want to drag you back.
Before we change, run.
Yeah, right.
Okay, what do you say? What do you want to do next? Sewer? Yeah, water sewer. Yeah,
Water.
yeah, water? Water, okay. So let's have the water department next, if they would. So, thank you, sir. No, it's gonna say-
How you doing tonight, sir?
Good. No, it's okay. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. I'm Bill Alexander, the Water Superintendent. Our 5-year capital plan for the Water Department. The largest thing that we're looking at in the next couple of years is the 125 project, the MD 125 project. In 2020, we budgeted, $1.9 million for the first phase and 1.28 million for the second phase in 2022. If we take a 20-year bond out for that particular project, it's going to raise our rates about approximately 20%. So I think that's important for everybody to see what's coming if it's approved in the November referendum. We've also talked about doing some additional streets, particularly with the type of breaks that we've had this past winter. As you know, this past winter has been, anyway, across the state, it's been really tough on a lot of water utilities because of the type of the weather that we've been having. We've had the warm, and then this cold weather again. So the frost load has made a real impact. However, some of the streets, particularly Main Street, 125, I've been here about 2.5 years now. In the 2.5 years that I've been here, the breaks that have occurred have all been essentially pipeline fatigued to age. There's pieces of pipe are blowing out this big. And it really needs to be done. And because of the condition of the pipe, when we've actually installed, I believe, 3 new services in the last couple of years on that line. It's actually, rather than direct tap the main, is the standard operating method, is that it's required additional saddles or wraparounds, or what I call wraparounds, a full circle clamp, because the pipe is so, you can see the stress cracks in the pipe. So that's what we're talking about, doing that. I've also looked at the town's paving list and sewer construction list. I've picked a few streets out on that I think would be candidates to get done over the next couple of years. That isn't included in that, but that's what we're going to be talking about over the next couple of months. I actually, excuse me. Yeah, for every 500,000 of additional borrowed funds, rate's going to go up 3%, assuming it's a 20-year term. So those streets that,
You say 3%?
3%, yes. Of the streets that's on this, on the list that I've got, there are several that are candidates to be considered. Spring Street, Franklin Street, Main Street, Frederick Street, Merrill Avenue, and Bonafide Street would be candidates that we'd have to look at. I actually have to find out how old they are. I have to look through the records back at the Water Department. Additionally, there's Zaymore, Patterson, Reed, and Beatley Street. We had a large breakdown in there, and I think we've had a break there, 2 breaks in the time I've been here. They've been the same type of breaks. So, additionally, we put a placeholder in there for another vehicle. We have a 2008 Ford pickup truck that was scheduled to be replaced, but the 2012 Chevy service truck is showing some steady decline, so we just kind of put that in there as a placeholder. And I think the Water Department needs to get back to looking for another water supply, secure another water supply. If, for example, because of the proximity of the wells to 196, it'd be real easy to lose either one of those if there was some kind of a fuel spill, some kind of an accident of that nature. So we need to get back to that. I know the Water Department, I don't know how many years ago it was, but they had done some field work and had identified a couple potential sources, and I think we need to get back onto that, take care of that as well, particularly if the towns continue, for growth of the community as well. The other thing that we're trying to do is I'd like to get 4 operators. We're not getting the work that needs to be done now because we don't have enough staff. This is just stuff that we want to do. It's stuff that we need to do. And it's across the board. So, I mean, just to give you an idea of some of the things that we plan that we're doing this year. We're going to replace the SCADA, Supervised Data Acquisition. That's how we control our facilities. That's the original software. It's running on an XP machine. They don't
support that anymore.
No.
That's been.
Or the SCADA software. They don't support that either.
That was sunset quite a while ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So that has been on the budget for the last couple of years, but we just didn't have the revenue. That's why we had this most recent rate increase to try to get the department up to where it needs so that we can be operating the way the utility should be. The filter media replacement, that's going to be done this year. The corrosion control program, that when I first came on board, the water commissioners had already hired Wright and Pierce to do a corrosion control study. Particularly what drove that was the events that are going on in Flint, Michigan. And because the water department's lead and copper, you're allowed to have 2 of the 20 water samples above the maximum contaminant level of lead. And Lisbon is at that level. So if we had one more, the drinking water program would order us to do a corrosion control study. So they got ahead of the curve. I came on board, I recommended, let's go with it, let's get it done. The money wasn't there. So the money's there this year, so we're gonna go ahead with it and get it done. So, and the power station generator has to be replaced. It's obsolete and unrepairable, and I did have 25,000 for water valve replacements in the budget, because that's been spent on the water leaks. But the entire system is I can't give you a percentage, but it's virtually the original system. Lisbon Falls is the early 1900s, and Lisbon is 1915 in that area.
You're talking infrastructure, everything
Yes,
under the
I'm
ground,
sorry,
yeah.
yeah.
I know that we had the study a little while back, and they said the one thing we had done a pretty good job was maintaining the pump stations and such, so. But the pictures, I remember those camera pictures pretty clearly. Pipes just, basically falling into themselves and crumbling.
Right.
So,
I mean,
what you're saying is that both under Lisbon Falls and Lisbon, there's not a whole lot of updated pipe, and most of it's
No,
over 100 years
no.
old.
Only what's broke, right?
That's right, what's broke.
Yep.
And a few years ago, I believe it was 17, when we replaced some valves on High Street, just to go show you how these water mains are breaking whenever, the water pressure in the system remains fairly constant all the time. But when we did that work, we dropped the water pressure in Lisbon Falls about 10 psi. When we brought it back up to its normal psi, we had the water main break out further on Main Street. And that's what's been happening anytime, fortunately we haven't broke anything flushing yet, but the valves don't operate, and when you do operate them, the packing boxes are leaking, or that's what we ended up doing out on Memorial Street and Memorial at Park and Memorial at Spring. So it needs a lot of work.
Yep. Need that going in.
Yep. And
One more thing, and you had talked about if the bonds pass in November, 20% rate increase. Any way to mitigate that, to spread that out across the, it's not 20% like that.
oh no.
Yeah.
Well, we were actually talking about a two-step increase.
Yeah.
But the PUC has to approve it. If they approve it, great. That's what we're planning on doing, is try to spread it out rather than right off.
And I figured there was some plan associated with that. I just want to make sure we got it on the record.
Right. Well, additionally, the other thing about it is in 2024 and 2025, we've got two bonds coming off,
Yep.
which will be great. That we'll be able to use that funds for either water main infrastructure, but there's also the important need of having a new standpipe. We have to increase the capacity, the firefight capacity for the community, and in the location of it, it depends on, there's a lot of different variables. But if we're ever going to have the entire community of Lisbon Falls and Lisbon on the same pressure system, right now there's two pressure zones. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to put a focus on the Lisbon Falls downtown area, because that's so old. And if we increase the pressure 10 pounds, 15 pounds, I don't know what we're going to be having for leaks down there. I lived through that in my earlier career at another place, and it's not pretty, let me tell you.
So we're glad you had that experience, so we can avoid those landmines
Right.
in Elbit.
But the board has been great. They're very aware of where we need to go. They've been very cooperative with me, working with me, and that rate increase was the first step in getting up to where we need to operate.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking at the funding for the 125 project, and I'm seeing the 2-year gap between the times that they actually come through. Is that consistent with the time frame of when they expect the work to go, or when we need to
Well,
finance it?
if we can get them to nail down the date.
I understand that. One of the things that I'm looking at compared to the town side is the financing seems to be different than what I'm seeing on our side. So would it be prudent to, if you're looking at a 20% increase, technically you're doing a 12%, and then you're hitting the other 88% 2 years later, and then the water rates are all over the place, and you're going to get the criticism associated with that. The second question that I would have after you absorb that soundbite would, how much does the water operations budget actually put in for main replacements on an annual basis to kind of mitigate that bump as well? referring to the comments that you made associated with following our paving plans, and then you got into for every 500,000, we're looking at additional 3% on just the roads. I'd be wanting to know what we're doing now to invest in the infrastructure as we go, rather than having to bond these over time.
Absolutely, that's where we need to get. And right now, there isn't anything in the budget other than valve replacement, and next year I want to add some hydrant replacements.
Is that because of the amount of tax things that have gone through for this current year's budget, so it had to be pushed off, or is it because it's short-sighted of the commissioners? If there's other priorities, I would understand that, but if it's not actually investing in the infrastructure, it's just postponing the problem.
Right. I'll agree with you in that respect.
Okay. The last piece that I had was we heard at our last council meeting discussion associated with Pinewoods Road, and is there anything to certain sections on that that's going to be after we get our piece done that's going to require the water department to dig it up at a later date?
Well, I since found out that the piece from Ferry Road down to Spruce, I believe it's Spruce,
Yeah.
that's dug up now, was the one that I would have liked to have replaced the water line in.
Okay.
From there out, there's no issue.
Okay. So the timing works, does it work against you? Because, again, if we have to go back out to voters for a referendum, that time frame for you is sailed. Is that correct,
That's correct.
as well?
That's correct. Because I did not know about that project until it started.
Sure. And it's, again, what I would point to is this is year 2 going through the process of, I thank everybody here for it, because I've looked at this for the last 3 years. It's one basket of goods. I don't give a damn who pays for it.
Right.
Your issues for the water department are the same as the taxpayer that's actually paying our side for the taxes as well. The fact is they need to hear all of this in one place, and joining this discussion without having it is just making the problems more complicated.
I agree.
So you didn't know about that project, and I heard you say that, and that's fine.
Right.
So what's been done, or what will be done to open up the communication so that you two departments can work together to make sure that
But I've been working on since I've been here.
Yeah, I understand. I just want to make sure that we're at that point now, since it was a missed opportunity, and this is not to say there's any blame there. There isn't.
No, I'm not
It is
blaming it. I'm just
exactly.
saying.
It's more about, let's talk about looking forward, how we're going to open up those lines of communication so that we can keep them open, because I think we all have the same thing in mind, which
Yeah,
is,
no, it's absolutely insane to be digging up something that's already been replaced.
Agreed.
I've spent my career with that approach.
and because of that, I'm sure that you guys can get on the same page and say, hey, let's look at what we're all trying to do here and come up with a strategy that works best.
Right, absolutely.
So as long as we know that line of communication is going to remain open and you guys are working on that, I think that's really what we're looking for.
Right.
Mr. Chair? You had mentioned, and I don't see it in the 5-year, but the idea of that replacing the standpipe with the tanks. Which I know has actually been looked at for many different times, planned and engineered and worked over, and it was always known to be something that needed to be done. But in the meantime, I knew one of the selling points a few years ago when that was getting ready to be kind of proposed before you came in was the idea that the tanks need to be refurbished every so many years that we're using right now.
Right.
And I don't see that on the capital for the next 5 years. Can we get through 5 years without doing those tanks?
Yep.
Or?
It's going to have to be pushed off.
It will be, yeah. There's not a certain
Absolutely.
requirement or something that needs to be done as long
No.
as they're in good shape.
That was actually essentially part of their planning to replace them because of the age and
Correct, yeah.
the cost of recoating them. The two of them together, you could virtually almost build it. Well, you could pretty much build a new tank.
So that's what they were saying. It was, a few $100,000 each to actually, not even including the time to actually.
Now, the water
take it
department
out.
has been setting money aside every year for that particular purpose, for recoating the tanks. But we've also talked that there's a possibility that the PUC will allow us to use it to build a new tank, so that it wouldn't be the entire amount that we would need to borrow to build it.
So you do have some capital reserve put
Yes.
aside for doing the maintenance.
That's correct.
So 5 years out is what the target is.
Right. Well, see, it's been kicked down the road a bunch of
Okay.
times because of competing,
That sounds familiar.
and
Didn't I see a previous version of this that had a standpipe penciled in somewhere? So,
Right, we pushed it out because of,
assumption here would be at least 225 before it's actually considered. Okay.
right. That's what we were thinking, because the bond's coming off in 2024 and 2025, that we might consider it that time.
Okay.
But towards that end, though, I want to do a master plan for the water department, to take a full circle look at all of the water department, all of its needs, so that we can have a plan and document to move ahead forward to, so that we know where we're going, what is needed to be done.
That'd be a fabulous idea. I know we won't be here in 100 years, but I hope they don't have to do maintenance 100 years, and they maybe had a little bit of foresight to do it a little bit more frequently.
Yeah, I'm actually going to submit apply for a capacity development grant to pay for 50% of that plan.
Grants, now you're talking my language. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah, we're looking.
Thank you. Anybody, any other questions?
One question.
Go ahead.
On the debt service page, under RD loan and grant, it says you do not qualify.
Right,
What is that, because your rates are so low?
that's correct,
Okay,
right now.
At the point, right?
Right.
that's what I thought, just wanted to clarify that.
Crazy to me. I don't keep our rates low.
Yeah, to that point, why don't you give us a little bit of flavor of what an average water rate in the state is compared to ours?
Right now,
Let's take the positive spin for a second, if there is
Well-
one.
yeah, no, I think there is. As a matter of fact, the PUC just requested information from all the water utilities in the state of Maine on their rates. So they keep a spreadsheet on the PUC's website of the rates in the state of Maine, and the most recent one is 2016. Lisbon Water is just above half on the high side, if you will. I wish I could give you a better number, but
The middle of the road.
yeah, just above the middle of the road right now.
As far as
You know,
rates-wise.
yeah, typically the smaller the systems, the higher the rates, because they don't have the customer base to support them.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, you had actually brought up an interesting point earlier that you actually have money aside to do a study this year. The studies are two-sided, right? And they either can actually be good or bad. If that study was to come through and actually, once you do that study and it's proved that other improvements need to be made, is that a possible notch in your long-term planning also? I don't know what the end result would be if it came back with after the study, if it was showed that the levels are high, or if there's some other problems, if that requires at that point, not actually makes recommendations about water systems or treatment plants. I mean, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, particularly with the issue of calcium that everybody's here, that everybody's talking about. There's a couple of different ways of addressing that. And like I mentioned earlier, the corrosion control is one option that might potentially mitigate some of the calcium. Wright & Pierce had recommended adding an orthophosphate. We may need to add a blend of ortho and polyphosphate. Just an interesting fact is the water department prior to 2006 was adding a polyphosphate to the water to sequester iron. And I don't know why they stopped, but when they built the treatment plant, they took the polyphosphate offline, thinking that, well, we're removing iron from the water, we don't need to add it anymore. Well, the other thing that does is it also coats the inside of the old unlined cast iron pipes, preventing the rust and red water issues. So essentially, we're working to bring that back online. As a matter of fact, I'm hoping either this week, end of this week, or next week is to start the application process that we have to submit to the drinking water program for approval before we can go ahead and do the actual construction.
Now, is that calculated into your budget at all as far
Yes.
as it is? Okay.
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you what happened on that. After I went out for proposals on doing the design for the corrosion control, and it came back at $25,000 for the design. And with the budget at that time, I talked to the board and I said, that's what I cut my teeth on when I first came into this business, that I'll do the design in-house and construct it in-house with our staff. And so now we have the money this year, so I'm trying to get it done with our current staff. And that's the reason for requesting an additional, operator, because the way it is now, our demands from our customers in trying to keep up It's that we can't keep anybody on task on a specific project. It's here,
No
it's
fires.
Chasing fires, yeah.
absolutely, that's how we spend our days.
Sounds like some other departments we have, right?
Anyone else with anything else?
All good.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. If it wasn't for money, we'd be all good, right? And it's just the big limitation we have, right?
I'll do anything to have the cash.
So,
Town side, are we just
Yeah.
gonna do it all as one?
Yeah, you want to, I think all the department heads are here that have the CIP, so if you want to go by department, or if you just want to ask questions.
Lydia, why don't you, Maria, for the last few meetings without you here tonight, so why don't you go through the content on that, and then just hit the highlights, and if anybody has questions, we'll take it from there.
Yep.
Just for the sake of time.
Sounds like a man who knows what he wants to do. I'm down with that.
So we have this nice handy dandy little summary page by department. I guess that's what I'll go
Yeah.
over. So for 2019, we have a total for the town of $10,480,000. That includes the RD sewer grant loan. Police and fire of $80,000, which is vehicles, and fire department of $668,000, which is the fire department new engine. Public Works of $150,000, and Parks and Rec at $23,500. Think I'd rather go by the actual departments in that summary because that doesn't give much detail. The fire department has, for the next 5 years, pretty much mostly just equipment and gear. The next engine, other than the one that was just passed, is slated for 2025. The police department is doing their 2-car, 1-car rotation. That's worked out rather well. We've also added for 2020, replaced the PD servers for $16,000. For Public Works, we have a new wheeler with the gear for $210,000. That's slated for 2020, and then a 4x4 1-ton dump with plow. And then the next year we have a backhoe, new cab and chassis for the Peterbilt, for the International, and then some plow gear. Solid Waste doesn't have anything for the upcoming year. Then they have a forklift in 2021. Treatment plant has a Freightliner in 2021 and the Ford F-250 in 2022. Then we have the mileage on the current vehicles. We've also included the paving plan. This is obviously just an estimate. It can change as we have funding available, but for the next 5 or 4 years is listed on here for you. Parks and Recreation has a 2002 Chevy 2500 that needs to be replaced for 2020, and a snowmobile for $3,500. And we have the current mileage of the vehicles for that as well. Then the town buildings and infrastructure. This is we have a few items on here that keep getting pushed aside. One of them being the salt shed for $250,000. We have the fuel pumps for $230,000. MTM center generator for $20,000. The annual paving that is funded through the budget is on here for $425,000. I think we've increased that to $450,000. Isn't that correct, Diane?
Mm-hmm.
So that's been increased up to $450,000 a year. We have 2 new quotes for a roof system and a paint repair project for the town office. The roof system's $31,700. The paint and repair project is $15,745. You see the sewer department RD project listed in 3 phases: 2.2 million, 4.4, and 2.2. For HVAC upgrades for the town office, we have 50,000. A storage building for the town for 50,000. Sewer department emergency generator, 120,000, and town records record restoration, 10,000. One thing to note, we have a lot of bonds coming off in the next couple of years. We have three bonds. Three bonds will be done in the next 2 years, and then another one will be done in the next 4 years. So that'll free up some revenue. Those are the highlights. You have any questions?
I've just got a couple of comments to make while Randy's here. The Stecco trash trailer, that's slated to be replaced in 2025. That's not going to happen. It's got to go a lot sooner than that. You want to speak to that, Randy?
Just for the folks up there on the red light.
Yeah. The Stecco trailer would not pass for a sticker this year. That basically needs a whole new bottom. Needs supports on the side and underneath. So kind of put us in a pickle because we don't have a spare trailer to swap out with, and it's a 6-month waiting period to get one. So what I've done is I've priced out 9 sheets of steel that we're going to take and plug weld to the bottom and weld in place on the floor. We're going to replace the struts that are bad. Basically, we got probably about 4 days of welding alone on that trailer just to get it passed for a sticker. That's only going to buy us a year. And basically, I don't know, what the price difference was between the J&J trailer and the Stecco. But if there's a significant difference, I can tell you where it was. It was in the thickness of the steel. One trailer is way better than the other. It just really hasn't held up very well. So we got our steel delivered yesterday. Mike's been in the process of cutting holes in where the struts are, and we're going to be spot welding the plates down onto the struts. It's going to require 2 guys, one from underneath pushing up on the struts, and then we're going to plug weld so everything stays in place, because the last thing you want is for that steel to be pushed out with the plate, and then you've got a big roll of steel out in the trash pile. So basically, that trailer is going to be replaced sooner than later. So, and they're approximately $100,000. So we're able to band-aid this one for now, and Duncan's going to do, and our new guy Fred, they're probably going to be able to put a sticker on it once we've made those, the ABS brakes. There's an issue with those. We're thinking that it's just deteriorated on how it's mounted, and so we just got to change that around. So we're probably going to have like $5,000 of material just to get this one by. So I propose that we put in order for a new trailer, because even if we order come July, it's 6 months out.
Right.
And that'll only put us into that, we'll have a spare on hand in case anything like this should ever happen again. I mean, it's been past practice, so I'm told that they just bring it down to, Grimmel's and junk it and get $2,500 for it. I'd say we keep it on hand in case we need something. Is better than nothing, because we only have 2 and we rotate them almost every day. So
the investment that we're making in band-aiding this one wouldn't just be to limp along, but it'd also be so we have a backup in the event the other
we're
one.
going to have a backup, that's correct.
At least we're going to do something.
Yeah, exactly.
So is this one going into the 20 budget?
Yes.
So
I've got half of the expense coming out of the budget and the other half coming out of undesignated fund balance.
Okay, so we're moving that 100,000 from 2025 to 2020.
Yep.
Okay. Because Randy's sitting in the seat, why don't you take a few minutes and talk about the wheeler? I know we brought it up as a
Yep.
discussion item.
The current truck we have, the 211 that we have now, that's another truck that won't take a sticker, and that is the 99 International 4700.
It's not a wheeler, by the way, but it's just a regular. That truck used to be a car hauler. The frame got shortened, we got a body put on it, and it's basically not going to pass for another sticker. Our thought is to have that go down to Parks and Rec. They can use it on site for because anybody can drive it, but they can use it on site for their bark mulch, delivering any gravel they have, and it'll be a good site truck for them down there, just so we can utilize something. The new wheeler would, be doing the 196, 125, and it would have to make, it would make a lot less stops to the public works to get refilled in salt, so it can stay out on the road a lot longer than they have been. And by replacing that truck, I had the joy of driving it for the past couple storms, and I overheated it twice, and because it's just not really made for that. So
the 210 speaks to both sides of that? That's with the
I've
wheeler
been-
and then the gear, is that?
I've been getting preliminary, which are the high side quotes. Just kind of reaching out to John from Whited. I reached out to Brian from Freightliner.
Yeah.
Just say, just for, town council purposes and for my budgeting purposes, what we would be talking for, 410 horsepower, automatic, just a, pretty decently spec'd out truck, so it's going to last. We don't want to shortchange ourselves on horsepower because then the truck's working too hard and we're burning a lot of fuel for nothing. So we spec'd out a truck just like Yarmouth has. Kind of Duncan knew the guy that spec'd one out. It was a real nice truck. Had a lot of decent spec on it. And it's really close to these numbers, even on the high side.
Again, it's 6 to 10 months out from the time that you actually place the order
I
to
will not be
delivery?
able to plow with that truck until the winter of 2020.
Right.
So it's been we've been talking, Diane and I worked for the Turnpike Authority plowing for them, and I know there's a couple really good trucks that are going to be going to auction, and I think it's in September. And I know the mechanics, and they tell me which trucks are the good ones, and you can get a decent truck that would buy us some time until we actually get one and have a spare. For about $10,000 to $15,000, you can get a truck with a stainless body. It's got the tank for the mag, and it's ready to go. Other than the orange and black, it's the truck's ready to roll. It's not a wheeler; it's just a regular truck, but we would be covered for this winter, this upcoming winter.
So to that extent, Diane, is the operational side to be able to address what Randy's saying, to be able to come up with an auction in the budget?
I don't have that in the budget, no.
If you could make the mental note, to at least consider that
Yeah.
for discussion purposes, that would be perfect. You might just start your list.
Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead, I didn't want to cut you off.
Well, I was just thinking, depending on when we order it, if it's, you said 8 to 10 months?
No, the 210, that's clearly here for discussion purposes. I'm saying the one from the
Yep.
auction, to be
Yep.
able to consider that. We have more latitude with that one to be able to pick that up on our budgeting side.
You're saying 15 on the high end?
Yeah, they said in past auctions, they've been between 10 and 15,000.
Do me a favor.
But we know the ceiling.
As a placeholder, put
Yep.
20 grand in for discussion, because every community is going through the same
So I was
thing.
just going to say,
And
every
the fact is,
municipality is in the same spot.
It's 40% inflation if you put that out there on budget, so I would not lowball what was there to make it operationally harder to get it.
Agreed. I was going to say 15, but hey, I'll take your.
Put it in perspective, I talked to Freightliner, and they are only getting allotted 17 trucks, and within 2 weeks, 5 of them were spoken for.
Yeah.
So,
Everybody that's bidding them is gonna pay a premium for them because
Exactly.
they're sold.
exactly. And they don't understand, but the supply and demand is unbelievable.
They put the emphasis on the passenger vehicles, and the large trucks are actually putting a delay in getting all of their factories up and running. That's the reality. Anything else for Randy? Those are the two that stood off. I mean, I know that we talked about the wheeler from time to time.
Pretty straightforward.
bounce back to fire then for a quick second?
Let's do it.
I made the mistake of asking the question
Thank you, Randy.
in
Great to see
preparation.
you. Public Works Director.
Yeah, thank you for coming out. You guys saw the email that I put out there asking the status associated with the new purchase of the fire truck. I didn't realize the can of worms that I opened up on the subject because when we, as voters, approved the purchase of this thing at the November election, when that referendum went out, and as the council gave the fire vehicle committee approval to start on the bid specs, the January 15th meeting, the question I was asking is why isn't it actually here from Lydia's perspective so we can start financing what it's going to cost us in year one and move this forward. The reality that I've been hearing throughout the course of the weekend is the fact that the vehicle is been put out to bid, and it is not something that actually is blessed by the vehicle committee. I have here, and I'll be glad to have Diane make copies for the council, the bid specs that I understand were actually last discussed by the committee. What I do not know, Chief, and you probably haven't seen the specs either, is I don't know if they were given to you. I know, piecing this together, I'm seeing a separation between Lisbon Fire and Lisbon Falls Fire, and I think we need to get past that because it's on the June election to go with one polling place. Everything that you've heard from me in the last 3 years is one basket of goods. I honestly don't see it as Lisbon Falls versus Lisbon. It's, at this day and age, which vehicle actually shows up at the house. I don't care who's manning it. That said, the specs that are out there for consumption had too narrow a time frame, and frankly, I have not heard that they have the support of the committee. I take it for general consumption at this point. I don't know where it is. I know there's a lot of different discussions associated with that. I just know that when we, as a council, voted on it for January 15th to be able to move this to the committee, I would have thought that would be what was actually went out to the bidders to be able to receive.
Maybe, may I?
Absolutely.
And maybe I'm missing a piece of this, but I kind of thought that we were actually working with a third party to actually help with the bid specs and actually move out. Is that where this actually got tied up, or is this actually internally? And again, this may be a discussion for a different night, not tonight, but and maybe we're just looking at it a little bit differently, but I thought we were actually going to have someone help us with that in a sense to make sure we got a bid, correct bid, and specs out correctly.
This wasn't sent out as a request for a bid. This was sent out as a request for pricing. It says right on the letter that I sent out to the vendors that this wasn't a bid. This is a request for pricing, so we can get the pricing down, so we can move forward in that direction.
Isn't that kind of what that third party spec
No,
was
actually,
supposed to be?
the
Was
Houston
it-
Galveston program is actually, you put it out there, it avoids being able to have to do a formalized bid on your own, because they've already vetted
Done it.
They've already done the bidding process, so
Yeah.
you have the specs that are agreed to, and then you send that out, and then you get the request back based on what you're looking for specifics.
Wouldn't that give
Right,
us, I guess, wouldn't that give us the information we're looking at for, I guess?
Yeah, what happens is once we choose a vendor and we come up with the specifications, all that gets submitted to HGAC to make sure that everything is copacetic, to make sure
they
within their
review
rights.
it. They're not the ones that do it initially. I thought from the discussion they were, our committee basically put together kind of what they're looking for. It went to them. They actually already had bid specs and pricing that they were able to
They
do.
have base pricing already set up.
Yep.
So
With different vendors or actually
The different
just
vendors that have
okay.
contracts with pre-approved vendors and have contracts, and the vendors give their base prices, and they actually even have the pricing throughout their option list to build a truck, which already been predetermined through bids.
That information wasn't helpful as far as for kind of going, I guess I don't know if that happens first or that actually happens after we actually do what we're doing right now, but
Well, what's happening is trying to get pricing, because right now what they want is what they want. See where it comes in to within that line or not within that line, and see if they have to adjust their specifications from there.
again, I don't know enough about it to actually
Yeah,
make any decisions
again,
or recommendations.
I learned way too much in the past weekend associated with that too. Is the point that I would have takeaway is that the bid specs that came out right here do not have the support of our vehicle committee coming from the fire department. That's the piece that I would have you focus on.
I guess as far as for tonight's discussion, as far as
Right.
for this, does it actually play a role as far as since it's not listed on here? It's just more of a further discussion for so than anything that's.
It needs to be vetted because it is in the 2019 part of the capital improvement plan, and we need to assist Lydia eventually because it's going to impact if we do anything for the bonding or how we do with the financing part of the budget discussion.
So what you're saying, there's other numbers need to be included in this, we just need to figure out where they are.
There's definitely a discussion here. I think we need to understand where the disconnect was as to why
And I don't
we
believe
went
it's a
around.
party, but what I'm
Yeah.
hearing is clearly, I'll say it here. I don't see a separation between Lisbon and Lisbon Falls because everything
Shouldn't
they
be.
were trying to, it's one basket of goods and we need to move this forward.
So to be continued, is I think where we're gonna leave this right now. Okay, great.
Can I ask a question from the planning board standpoint?
Go ahead.
I'm not sure what everybody else has, but I only have one question, and that's with regard to how it affects the comp plan, and that's what's with the shed, the salt shed, and that sort of thing.
What's with the salt shed?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
As far as for funding, you mean?
Yeah.
2020, and I mean, that's the only thing that I can see that could potentially affect the comp plan.
Yeah.
I don't know what the plan was.
I don't think you had anything for you, Nate.
No, run while you
I
can.
thought I was gonna say something about
Yeah.
fire truck.
Yeah.
I was going to wait
Apparently,
for,
different direction. Threw me there, Don, for a minute.
That's, it's a $250,000 item, and we're just prioritizing what we need. That's why it's not on here. It gets pushed off every year because of the price of it.
We've been doing this dance at that salt shed for
And
quite a
then
while.
the other thing is, where are we gonna put it? If we, that's another issue,
Right, and that's
is the location. So it's a bigger issue, I think.
At one point in time, I mean, this goes back quite a ways, the town was looking at possibly being enforced to actually put one in because of some water issues and ground saturation of salt, and I don't think that's ever been fixed. So the day it actually gets to the point where it's demanded, I think we're trying to avoid that by the idea of being proactive and actually eventually putting up a shed that would mitigate the idea of water seeping through our salt going into groundwater. But I think that's where the whole discussion's been all along. Yeah.
Wouldn't hold my breath.
I think also a bigger salt shed would allow us to buy all the salt at the beginning of the year and not have to rely on deliveries during the year, which is a problem if you have a shortage of salt and you run out in the middle of winter.
What, that's bad?
Right.
Sorry.
Given that price tag, that the 250 would actually trigger a referendum if you see it on
Right.
the November ballot. You'll know.
I just,
No, it won't go there.
I think what I would want to do is, if we talk about the capital plan, is actually reach out to, if we have a new director, to actually think of those numbers. That seems like a pretty expensive steel roof enclosure, but I'm not sure, if that is an actual number out there, or,
We've done, we've gotten a couple of quotes, or just kind of reaching out, and that was for like the canvas type that they've been putting up, where, budgets are kind of tight. But the biggest thing is finding a location, because if we're having issues with, the salt getting in the water where it is, and we put it back there, what's to say it's gonna change and we invested all that money? So our land is fairly limited there, so unless we put it on the front lawn, we really got no place to put it.
No, the issue is the officers owner can't be relocated there.
yeah. The question is do we actually have a place in our community that doesn't get affected, and what do you actually build it on that actually makes it so it doesn't, prevents it, the idea from going through,
My
but.
standpoint is we're putting all that salt on the road, it's gonna get there somewhere at some point, but.
Unfortunately, we're still paying on the bond because of Route 9 because we're spreading it for years. So I'm sure that could actually happen more anywhere else in town. But again, it's one of those things where it just, I mean, if we've been looking at this capital plan for a while, just trying to make sure the numbers are realistic, and if that number is, not realistic and the locations in there, I think we need to modify the capital plan to actually come up with an alternative as far as for what a building would be and what it would cost to replace what property. If
Yeah,
that was the case.
it's not just about the building. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Because we have a bunch of other problems that we have to mitigate there that we've been kicking the can along. So, sure, we can put it in our plan that we want to replace a building, but at the end of the day, it's all about a full, complete redesign of where can we locate it. And more importantly, going from there, what's that cost going to look like? Because it's not just going to be the building. It's going to be the land, like we talked about, and whatever prep is responsive that we got to do to make sure that we don't run into this again.
It's one of those items just keep. It's kind of like a wheeler in the past. It always shows up and never actually comes
And
through.
on the
That's all.
salt shed, what should happen is it should be big enough so the truck will actually pull in undercover, and so everything's getting loaded undercover. Then when you leave, you're not leaving a mess all over the yard, which gets, the snow gets on it and melts, and it's a high concentrate. And if your truck's inside, you're loading it inside, there's gonna be no spillage, and then you take off and it's clean. So that's been the issue. It's a concentrated area. It's where everybody loads their trucks. Our bucket on our machine is just as wide as our dump body. So when you top off with salt, sometimes some goes over the other side. Everybody's in and out, in and out, in and out. So, I mean,
It's a whole program, basically, is what you're saying.
Right, so, I mean, if you had a salt shed, you can back into, the loader's inside, everything's inside, undercover, and you load your truck and you leave, there's gonna be a lot less concentration on the ground to wherever we have the new location. So, that's just something to look at, make sure the building's big enough so we can back in it and still maybe have 100-ton instead of 8-ton.
So,
On hand, we usually get 8 truckloads, you know what I mean, so.
okay.
And there's 24 tons of truckload, so that's our capacity right now.
Yeah. Well, maybe it would be just the idea as time goes on. Right now, this isn't the best time, but actually, as we talk about putting together a better plan of what actually would need to be done and what really an actual cost would be as far as for developing what we would need, because I'm not saying that we'll be forced to do it, but I mean, all it takes is one more circumstance for someone to maybe require it. So.
If we're going to consider it, we need to be an honest look at it with all the pieces. No.
That's why you're here, Don, right?
I'm glad you did. Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, absolutely.
on that same page, my question would be to Public Works Director and Dennis and Kine. I see year one for 2020, we have a decent list for projects for construction and buildings, but we have nothing for the next 4 years. Is that adequate, or is there something next year that you guys could give us an idea of what's coming down the line? Who wants to go first? See what he did there?
Yeah, I'm not.
I know you're not Brett, but if
New guy learns quick.
Hi, Dennis, Douglas Code Enforcement and Building Maintenance, I guess is what I'm here for now. So,
yeah,
so I don't have any long-term, I haven't had any discussions with anybody, any long-term larger projects. Honestly, the first year, roughly year of trying to get the building maintenance under control is putting out fires and taking care of the immediate things that have to be done that are going to cost us more down the road if we don't do. So some of the stuff I submitted is just that. One of the problems is it's capital improvement, but some of the stuff really needs to happen now. So we, I don't know if we have the luxury to wait 5 years to develop the funds to do one of them or not. But I think that was just the roof system on the back here. They wanted to entertain that issue, but outside of that, I didn't have anything big that I know of outside of what just came up, a salt shed and a location. We used to have a nice location for that salt shed, but we sold it. So not sure where you want to put it now, but that Route 9 property probably would have been the best thing for us for that. But the issue you have there is your aquifer protection. That's where DEP has issues with our salt shed where it's located now. So. Outside of that, I don't have anything on there, honestly, that I can think of that anybody's come to me from department heads or whatnot, or anything larger that.
given the task that I know you've been saddled with for buildings, I would give you latitude for this time next year. We're looking at that, putting department heads on notice. The fact is, if you're not hearing about it, the assumption is it's not happening. So the fact that if it needs to happen, get it to you so we can.
No, and I've sent stuff to department heads repeatedly on, send me anything you have, so it's on my list, and we've been putting them out. But I haven't had any big ticket items coming from any department heads unless, I can send that back out to ask for anything larger
That's
than
fine.
what I've
Like I
gotten.
say, I
Right
was
now it's building
more
maintenance
looking
stuff.
for this same plan next year, is the fact that, to your point, listening to Alan's narrative, anything above 10 grand that actually is going to have a long-term benefit, that's the way the school identifies it. The fact is, it's less about how it's financed, it's that it's on somebody's radar screen for being considered. And right now, the assumption is it's nothing to be worried about.
Well, the biggest discussion to have that I could bring up would be the HVAC system here in the town office. I think I heard 50,000.
For 3 years in a
For 3
row.
years.
Okay,
That-
that's
we
what I
have to
didn't have any
revise
paperwork
that
with.
because he's gotten the pricing since this went out, so.
I've got people working on hard numbers, but the system we're looking at is north of 200,000 to revamp, to fix the PD in the town office building only. Trying to put some numbers together to show you over the years what we've been spending just to maintain what we have and whatnot, just so we have some comparison to see this is what it's costing us just to operate the system that doesn't work very well now. Unfortunately, it was designed so it can't really come out. There's no place to get it out, so it will stay there as a backup system and then a new HVAC system installed. But that's the biggest ticket item that I've been working with and trying to get final numbers together on that now, but that's a couple $100,000+.
Appreciate it.
Can you explain the town office roof system, what that entails?
Yeah, so that's the big roof system piece. So I don't know if anybody can visualize it, but we have a big problem out back here on the PD side. The metal roof is nice. The 9, 12, 10, 12, 12, whatever roof on this was crazy when we did it, because it just is destroying stuff out here. All of our equipment is getting pounded. Public Works can attest. We've had them out here a number of times just trying to get snow away from the building. We have snow in a number of the offices that literally a 4-inch snowstorm and they can't see out their windows. That's how much comes off this massive roof. The only way that I have been able to come up with to fix the problem in the back here is to run a roof that starts right off this door here, the town council chamber here, runs along the side and runs along the PD side. Unfortunately, the biggest problem is the tower's right in the way, so we wouldn't be able to do the roof the whole way. We'd have to stop at the tower there. That would be a lean-to roof that would come off. Some nice wide columns that would be open, so it would be some dry open storage underneath, but open, like a lean-to roof. That would slow the snow coming down off there, would get it out away from the equipment, would get the equipment under cover. PD could actually have some other stuff under cover in that area and would eliminate the hazards that we have out here right now, but it is wreaking havoc on the back of the building here. And that's about the only scenario I can come up with that would fix it. So that's I've had a carpenter price it out to give us some rough numbers of what we're looking at, so if we can include it in the capital improvement. But I do feel it's something that we should do sooner rather than later. But and keep in mind, if we do a complete new HVAC system, the new components will be undercover as well. So you can go out and look at the damage that we took this year from the snow coming off the roof on the condensing units, land right on top of it. It's all right, literally directly underneath.
How old is this building?
So 20 something? Yeah.
No, it was like 2000, I think
It was
it was
99.
built.
I couldn't remember if it was 99.
Yeah, close to 20 years old. Yeah.
And it's a true effect of low bid if you look at the walls and seams.
Yeah, no.
Well, I know there was some talk on getting the council chambers cleaned up. I'm working on that. It's a little bit more than our maintenance guy can do by the time you get everything down here. And if you start looking around, you'll notice every corner of this entire outside wall of this building and all the way down that side, you've got gaps 3/4 of an inch wide where the entire building is pulling away from your interior walls. And that's literally because this massive roof system, there's no bracing up there on those massive gable ends. And so we are working on a plan to fix that structurally this spring. That's not going to be that bad of a fix to shore it up. It's a bigger fix to go around and clean everything up after. But so some of that stuff's not on there because to me it doesn't reach the level of a capital improvement, stuff that I can just continue to get
with
done.
the operational funds.
Right, just small maintenance stuff.
I can live with the water stand as long as I know the roof's not going to come down on me.
I can't guarantee that right now. If anything, that wall will go first, and then the roof will come down.
I got a fighting chance. That's what you're saying. Good.
You
Thank
might,
you.
you might get out. Cassie
Thank
and I,
you.
we're gone.
You decide whether you go out with it or you run in, that's all.
Everybody's in their own.
All right, same question to Randy. What are we not seeing from a construction perspective? I mean, it may be way too soon, but we're looking for it coming years.
biggest thing is the salt shed, but again, location is the biggest thing. Public Works Department, is fine. Steve,
How about road construction and that kind of stuff? You talk
road
about
construction, that's a whole nother.
construction. You guys build stuff.
All right, now I gotta go back over there, 'cause the list is long.
Don't forget Bartholomew Street. That's all. Yes, my in-laws live on that road. Thank you.
All right, so as you may know, Bartholomew.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Under flooding right now. So we'll start with Bartholomew since you brought that up. That either has to be slip lined or something's got to be done with those culverts. The bottoms are all deteriorated. We can't raise the level of the road to compensate for the water because of the next house over, their driveway is way down. So the more we pick that road up, the worse they're going to be to try to get out of their driveway. There are a couple things we're having Tracy look at and maybe get Mandy on as far as trying to get bids to get it done. To do it correctly, you'd have to put a cofferdam to block all the water, dig it out, take the head walls out, replace the 3 24-inch culverts that are there now, put the head walls back, reconstruct the road, take the cofferdam out, and pave it. So,
Sounds
One
cheap.
spot.
I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, we could do it, but but I think it's
It's just money. That's what he said.
it's just money, yeah.
Stop making it.
But on the other hand, we can't go with anything larger in diameter because of the flow that's going to happen downstream, and then it's just a snowball effect. You're going to have to replace everything else downstream that can't handle the water flow. So, as you may know, it's already overflowing the road, but I don't know if what's going on with the culverts, if they're full again or not. We've been by there, and right now you can't really look in there to see what's going on.
Kind of deep.
It's deep, yeah. So, so that's one project. Another project, other projects we have, of course, are all the paving going on. I'm going to, in the spring, find out what it's going to cost from Spruce Street on Pine Woods Road to get all the way to Cotton Road. That road was not designed for the type of traffic that's going down there right now, with all the dump trucks and all that traffic. So it's a total rebuild of that road if we're going to have to support all that weight. So that's going to have to be, once I get the final numbers, you're going to probably see it's going to be fairly expensive. So construction-wise, beside, going behind Steve and paving his projects, funds are going to be limited, so that's probably not going to even be a scope of work for us this year. But
Well, it can't because it's got to go before a referendum, and you don't even have the cash to be able to do it until
right,
next
that
spring.
whole, what my budget is, and it's set here to be done in three different times in 3 different years. But I feel it should be all done at the same time because given what the traffic's, becoming over there with the heavy truck traffic, it's not going to last. So I think we have to do it. I don't know how you guys do it with bonds, referendums, or however you do it, but we'll have to get the money from someplace. So from a construction standpoint, that's the things I see right now.
I'm done.
Anybody else?
Thanks for sharing.
No problem. I'll be right over there if there's any more questions.
Another
Stay
situation.
around. We might want to talk to you again.
Another situation where money will fix everything. Just you gotta have the money, right?
All the fun they didn't tell you about, Randy.
Library.
ISO discussion,
Trans-
that's probably going to be real quick.
Okay.
I sent you out the 1992 report late this afternoon. So, but probably Nate's still here. The ISO discussion.
So the ISO, which is the Insurance Service Office, does a public protection classification, and it helps with figuring out the fire protection rating for the community for insurance companies. The one that we just received on March 5th, that's what the date of the letter is, was a survey that was started back in 2017, and we just got it this month. The our original rating prior to that was what they call a 4, and they drop us down to a 5 or 6. They had dropped us down in ranking. What I then did was contacted ISO to find out what happened in the study was caused us to lose our rating. And what they reported back to me was an issue with because it's classified in 3 different areas. It's classified under communication center, fire department, and water supply, which is Bill's area. And the area that had raised concerns was the water supply portion, and Bill can speak to that one more than I can. But when we go back to the last survey that was done for our community that we have on record, and the ISO has on record, was from 1992. And prior to that was 76, and prior to that was 50-something. So it's not done on a yearly basis, or sometimes not even done on a 10-year basis. It's, I think, whenever it comes up in their records, they reach out and do these surveys. But from 76 till now, we're rated as a 4, and this year it dropped. And I'll let Bill explain the reason why that happened.
Is that the standpipe?
Oh, partially.
Go ahead. Here you go, sir.
Well, when ISO first contacted the water department, I asked them for the last ISO report that they had done was in 1992. And being new to the department, anytime something goes out, I go through it to ensure that it's accurate, and it's accurate. So when I took a look at it, one of the first things I noticed is that they had the Lisbon Falls tank. The information they had on the Lisbon Falls tank and the Lisbon tank was incorrect. They had the inside diameter incorrect, and they had the normal minimum capacity incorrect as well. The connection pipe diameter was listed as a 20-inch pipe. Well, it's actually 12-inch. So the amount of water you can get out of the tank is significantly, you just can't get the water out of a 12-inch pipe that you can get out of a 20-inch pipe. The Lisbon tank was listed as having a 16-inch pipe, and it's actually 8-inch. So where that data come from, I have no idea. That's just what I found. The capacity of the wells was incorrect as well. The Moody well and the actual the Moody well rated capacity and the actual capacity on here was incorrect as well. It actually went up from 400 to 700 gallons a minute. But we lost some capacity on the Bower well across from the town hall here. So that was the other thing. They also said that we didn't, I think if I remember correctly, was that there wasn't annual inspection of the fire hydrants. I don't know where they got it from. That's actually incorrect. We do that every year. All the hydrants are inspected. And the other thing that we were unable to do was actually complete the fire flows. The distribution system needs to be entirely flushed before we can do that, because last time we tried it, it took us 2 days to clean the system up. After doing them, we were able to complete 40% of the fire flow tests, but they wanted all the data collected on the same day, which makes sense. You're calculating that. And we're going to start flushing the system in a couple of weeks with that goal in mind, to get the firefight capacity that they need, well, get the hydrants rated, and they're taken care of.
So what does it mean for how we're going to mitigate? I heard you say some things.
So
What's the plan?
what ISO said that if we submit a plan they will leave us at our current rating of 4 for the next 12 months. Then we'll get them the information to correct the situation. And if we don't get it to them in 12 months, then they'll put us right back to the classification they came up with. So I submitted a letter to them saying that we'll be in the process of communicating with the water district. They get the information they need. And they sent an email back saying that they'll leave us at the previous clarification for the next 12 months.
We have everything that they stated as the reasons for why they dropped us, so that we can go ahead and address all of them.
The problem is that we won't be addressing those for a long period of time. I mean, that's from what the sum of it is.
We're hoping that with the information that Bill can collect from the fire flow ratings, that will be the information they need to complete the information. So what they did in the report, if you look at it, and under the hydrant section, everything's listed at 750, which is a minimum. They just put a minimum under it, which is what hurt the water supply rating for the report.
But there's still a capacity issue.
Circling back around on this, exactly it. There are things that we can address immediately.
Right.
And the other things that require a more long-term fix. I'm sure we're not the first community to ever run into this problem. So I'm sure if we can show some improvement,
yeah,
and then the understanding that we're working on the other things,
right,
that may not jeopardize. And
I'm hoping the fire flow information itself that Bill collects coming up soon will take care of majority of these issues. The other issues that Bill identified, that's going to have to be a longer term issue, like the size of the pipes, and things like that. It'll be a longer term.
So we should be having discussions with, I sort of understand what, if anything, they can do for us. I don't want to get to the 12-month mark or 11th month and be like, we fixed these things, we didn't do these things, and they're just going to drop us down anyway.
But
right, the information that I was given from the gentleman at ISO was mainly on the fire flow ratings.
And I think we just have to get a little bit better idea of what the difference between a rating from a 5 to a 4, a 4 to a 5 actually represents. I mean, as a community that doesn't actually have fire protection out front of every house, I mean, if you have a house in Houston Park or you live out in Bodenham Road, one actually has hydrants and one doesn't. And usually the difference in the rating is the idea that you don't have a fire hydrant within a certain distance. And a lot of times it doesn't affect the rating that drastically as far as for your homeowner's insurance for fire. So, I mean, I don't think it's one of those things where, you know, I think we just need to actually understand the full picture of what, I mean, you don't want to spend a lot of money to mitigate a small problem if something we're trying to address anyways.
No, I completely understand what you're saying. If we're talking a few dollars here, a few dollars there. But end game is that if we can certainly just by having conversation, not lose our rating, let them know that if all they need is a show of good faith that we're working towards that, which I get the impression probably is the case, because if we haven't given them numbers since 92, pretty safe bet to say, at least showing them that, yeah, we're still actively engaged. They didn't know that we're checking the hydrants regularly every year. They have to assume the worst.
Correct.
And that's what we're getting here.
Yeah.
So I think if we open that line of communication back up, I think pretty safe bet to say we might go another 30 years and nobody will bug us that rating again.
The ratings go from 9 is the lowest to 1 is the highest.
Yep.
And very few communities get that actual 1 rating because you pretty much have everything perfect. And from a fire department standpoint, they don't give us much rating for personnel because we have paid on-call people. They give you a rating for full-time people. They look at distance between where your trucks are located to the first, how long it takes them to get from point A to point B. Having a ladder truck located in Lisbon Falls and having Fallout Mill right here, they look at that. They want to know the size of those buildings, how far away it is from your ladder truck. Is it more than 2 miles? Ding. So all that plays into effect. From the fire department standpoint, there's not much more we can do to improve our rating. Lack of building more fire stations in this town and hiring full-time people, which is outside of realistic. So,
and that hasn't changed from the last time the rating was there. So I mean, and you got to understand the communities around us too actually are
the same boat.
Actually less because they don't have any water service at all. So I mean, where the problem we have with what we're talking about is something that other communities around us don't even actually have as an option. So I mean, their ratings would be interesting to see what theirs. Probably not a lot different.
No, I hear exactly what you're saying. I'm just thinking simple. It sounds like you've done what you need to do as far as sending the email, keeping the lines of communication open. So that's that. Good enough for me.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
anybody other than Parks and Rec that would like to leave, can we dismiss the prisoners?
Yeah.
They sure can, if they want to go.
Thank you all.
Are we gonna do the library first?
Library, is library,
First.
librarian. Might as well, she comes. So we might, depending on how she goes with it. I think I'll bring a mark in for You know what, hey, before we get going with you, I'm just gonna say, it's a safe bet to say that we're not gonna get to Mark tonight, so rather than keep him here, hey, Mark, we're gonna move you to Tuesday, I think, next Tuesday, if that's all right.
Guess you're gonna have to fly back.
Thanks for coming down, sorry to make you wait around for nothing.
Thank you.
And thank you all for coming and having to,
Library's only gonna take 5 minutes. She's on the
yeah,
top.
I had a feeling Mark's gonna take more than 10, 15, so, right, Mark?
Mark broadcast, for
Quick
the sake of time, can we have a 2-minute discussion that actually I think we can get in before 8 o'clock associated with
I don't
the
believe
Moxie
it.
Fund? You don't believe so? No, the fact is, he brought 4 people specifically on this, and we're sending them away and asking them to come back for Tuesday. I think that's a disservice, in my opinion, if we can address that topic right here while them sitting here.
Okay.
You make us go over 8.
Oh, don't give me this crap. You guys misrepresent last year's events because I would do it again. The fact is, on the last night of our Public Works Director, I don't care who's sitting in the room. It's a one-man hostage situation. Have a seat. Absolutely.
Okay.
You want him first? No?
Library. Mrs. Netto.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. Diane Netto from the Library Department, and I'm here to present the proposed budget. Since I'm first again this year, are we going line by line, or just you're asking questions, or what?
Did on the high parts.
Okay.
Because you have an increase, so I would just touch on those.
Okay. What you're seeing in the wages increase is a request to the children's librarian from a 35-hour position to a 40, an additional 5. That doesn't affect any of the benefits; those are already in place. The 5 hours would allow us to do more outreach in the community with our children's services. Mark is sitting here with his assistant, and they can vouch that Bill going to the MPM Center on Tuesday afternoons has made a difference in several children's lives. They've come to the library with parents on Saturday, so between the two departments, that's working well. We also want to expand the summer reading program to reach more kids internally, and also offer it to the MTM campers as well, and try to expand that as well. So all this outreach takes personnel, so that extra 5 would get Bill out more in the community. We have a new daycare center just 2 doors down for us. It would be nice if we could go and do a story time, or bring color pages that say we're celebrating this, come back with your mom and dad. So that's the increase for the children's position. Also requesting that the 28-hour position be made a 40-hour full-time position. This position has grown significantly in the last 2 years. We've changed. We keep expanding services to convenience the community, what they ask from us and what we want to offer them. And so this has gone from just an aide to the position that assists with all our social media. She, gets the information out to the public with programs. She reaches out to the authors with me to see if they're interested to come and do a program here in our community. She does our monthly newsletter and reaches out to patrons in other ways, postcards for those who don't have media. If we're having a program, we send postcards to those who may be interested. This position also has taken on duties assisting me with addressing the need. People have asked us to bring more programs, adult programs, to this community that bring people to the library for different reasons. Free programs, why not? And so we successfully hosted the Graciano family right before Christmas. This was new. We put this program together. his children were very touched that we reached out to them. They agreed to this, and they even got Mrs. Graciano, who doesn't like to do that kind of thing. She sat in the front row, and within 10 minutes she was participating and sharing stories about her husband. And we filled the children's room with not just people from the community, but people who remember dining there. There was a couple that had gotten engaged there, saw us on our social media page, and came to just reminisce about how wonderful the Graciano family had been when that evening they spent it. So those are the kinds of programs that we want to bring to the community, but it does take staff to do it, and to make sure that it's successful, and to make sure we, get the right people here. That this wage is also a reminder that it continues to bring a nice summer intern to the library for 7 weeks, and what a difference that makes to our program and to a local high school or college student. They leave us in 7 weeks better prepared to go off to college or go back to the high school, and they can work in the school library or their college library. So that is a good position if we can. Everything else seems to be the same. We get down to postage, 5256. We have asked to increase, not just because postage has gone up, but we continue to offer or to receive interlibrary loan, the van delivery 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. That additional day has made such a difference. The year before we switched to Mills, we did about 1,237 interlibrary loans. This full year with the Mills service, with 3 days of delivery, we're almost at 4,000 items that have come through our door. And that's a wonderful service. Those are 4,000 items that we didn't have to buy. I was able to borrow them from Wiscasset, Madawaska, you name it. And so it's made a difference on our collection, the savings, and just the materials that we're getting for people. Just today, they look like DVDs, but they're not. They're little play-away gadgets. You have to have a special little player, and children, their schools have them. So I think it's a student who's researching, and so that came from up north somewhere. I can't remember now, but in the county somewhere. So these are things that we don't have to buy, but we get them here within a week. So that third day makes a big difference. It's been funded by the state, but it's grant money. When I put this together and spoke with the state librarian, he was in the same boat with state money. Sure, yes, it looks good, and as we get closer and we're not hearing what legislators are doing, that's why I kept that third day. If we hear that, it's going to be funded, then we would pull out that it's $612 per delivery day per year. And so that's why that request. The office supplies, it's again just the supplies for the machines, the printers. That also takes care of the janitorial supplies. It takes care of the book mending supplies. Mrs. Medlin saves a significant amount of books from going to the dump. She works her magic with book bindings that come apart. We have little fingers that rip pages, and if they're not too torn, they're special tape, and you would never know that they'd been damaged. And it saves them from the dump, and we don't have to buy a replacement copy. So that's what the 5375 maintains. In the 5380, we decreased that by $500. I worked really hard to find a better source for audiobooks and DVDs. And we did this with the book company that we deal with, Baker & Taylor. January 1st, we switched everything over with Baker & Taylor. The savings in DVDs is 45%. So when we buy a new movie, you see it at Targets, we get 45% off of that. That almost doubles our buying capacity. The company before didn't give such a big discount, but their policy was within a year they would replace it. However, what we found, I keep track of that, we don't get a lot of that, frankly. And so the savings with the 45%, if they did damage the 101 Dalmatians, it would be cheaper for me to buy it than to keep up with that company. Same thing with the audiobooks. They're about between $45 and $50 per set. They're unabridged. They give us a 33% discount. Again, that almost doubles our money. And so if there's damage, then putting aside within the 5380, I'm confident that our collection will continue to grow. We'll continue to do everything we need to do with that 5380. And that's all I have.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yep.
From 28 to 40 hours,
Correct.
that's actually calculating all benefits and everything that come with that 40
Yes,
hour
correct.
position.
The figures that you got from Mrs. Barnes is, yes, correct.
The question for Diane, so who do we have on staff at the town office for social media?
From Tracy.
But no one really official, right?
No.
I mean, is it unreasonable to think with the extra hours that she could be shared also with some of the town's social media type stuff? Because I know that sometimes I mean, it's just a recommendation. I mean, if you were...
So you're talking the 28 to 40 hour
Yeah,
position?
I mean, if we're hiring sometimes someone to be full on staff that actually take care of a lot of that type of stuff, I mean, that's fully versed in it. I mean, it would be nice if... I just don't know who takes care of our Facebook page and our website. I mean, I don't think...
A Facebook page?
We do. It's not really well maintained, that's my point. I mean, it's the idea that if we actually had someone on staff that was actually doing this daily, that we could actually keep something that's actually current and up to date.
And cost be shared across both departments, too.
Well, that's just my point, if we can. You mean, and sometimes it's, unfortunately, some of this stuff isn't someone's job description, it just falls into theirs because they're the ones that took the shortest straw. So, I mean, it's just a recommendation. I'm not sure if something that could be used or not, but I mean, it's just one of those things where, you know, the town doesn't have a full-time social media person, so not that this is full-time just on social media, but yet in a sense, it sounds like that's something she's pretty good at, so.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's just a recommendation.
Yeah.
I'll go one step further. We're looking at adding 5 full-time positions or adjusting to 5 full-time positions this year. In the library positions, I'm not comfortable making a recommendation to approve them as written until we see the full value of the budget at this point. I would add them to your list, Diane, because I think it's a pretty sizable investment to go from 28 to 40 hours associated with this. It may not be popular, but it's the reality with the basket of goods that we're looking for this budget.
I think I have to see if we were going to consider that, how that cost would be distributed across both departments, because it is, like you said, one bottom line. But then the other side of that, too, is to also understand what are some of the duties and responsibilities going to be picked up here. And there's some justification from your end, or it wouldn't be in your ask here. So there's some additional responsibilities and rules. So maybe getting a better beat on that and then looking at our final end product before we can make a decision. Completely different note. This is a small amount of money, but it's still an amount of money, and I'm just curious about it. Under the telephone line, we're paying $26 a month additional fee for phone services for faxing. Is that right?
We maintain the fax machine, the public fax machine. It's the only one in town that services your community.
No, and this is just me talking out loud.
Right.
We can do this right now, and all we need is a scanner, and that doesn't cost us $26 a month. Because if we set it up through the Roundtable supports them too, right?
Yep.
Roundtable can set up faxing for you folks right through your computer. So if somebody walks in and says, "Hey, I need to get this fax to A, B, or C," you normally help them with the actual...
Through the photocopy machine.
Yeah, through the machine right there, right?
$2 a page. Like
Right.
they
So we can stop paying. It's not, I think it's like a little over $300, but we don't have to pay that fee anymore. We can just do it right through scanning.
You would still have to pay the fee.
Why would-
It's for that line. It's already done through the
Some
scanning.
dedicated fax line is what you're saying, because
Exactly.
you don't, but you still can get around this.
Not without tying up the phone line, because you can use another dedicated line in that building.
Okay.
But
I see
I
where
don't
you're
disagree
going with
with
that.
I'm not going to spin my wheels over $300. I'm just saying there is a way you can get around it, but we'll do it offline.
Modern technology is what you're saying.
That's right.
Right.
I just don't like spending money we don't have to spend, but
Yep.
none of us do.
Yep.
TTY machines are worse.
If, Chair, may I, one more thing before you leave, you actually had some capital improvements this year.
Yes, they're wonderful.
They're working out okay?
Oh, they're wonderful. People are happy with the improvements. The building looks marvelous, doesn't it? We have councils who have come to visit. It's changed the way we look. Those carpet squares just have made us look bigger and fresher, and all the walls are freshly painted.
And the heat this year was adequate through the winter?
Oh, and the heating was just wonderful. It was marvelous. It was like, yes, like going to a deserted island and, 100 degrees or so, but not 100 degrees. But it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
right here.
No, well, that's what I was hoping, because all those 52 degrees days, I'm like, yay, but it was a normal temperature, and it was wonderful to be able to work without
Finally
your
got your
jacket.
thermostat.
We
moved in the
did. We
correct
got all
room,
that.
so you
That
have
was the
correct
last
zones
piece of
that
the
you
puzzle.
should, yeah.
So everything went well then, everything?
It was wonderful. In
Good.
3 weeks, we pulled it off, and people are still commenting when we have visitors, and especially when we do those programs. We have people from, and they walk through and they say, "What a inviting, wonderful facility you have here."
One thing
So
neat
we're
about
proud.
the school presentation is they try to highlight some of the good things they did, so it's nice to bring
Right.
something
Thank
forward,
you.
right?
And it, yes, it is wonderful, and
Good.
we're very pleased with the improvements.
It's wicked easy. I know round table.
Thank you, Mrs. Neto.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You ladies do a great job.
Thank you.
All right, marking the guests I made today.
Yeah.
I have one question I think we can cover tonight.
8 minutes?
Yes,
You got 8
absolutely.
minutes.
Depends.
No.
I can ask the question. We may answer the question at the next meeting. I don't care, but at least the question
Okay,
we ask.
good go.
We have made the commitment to the rec department with the change in the MOXIE coming from economic development to the Parks and Recreation budget. And the discussion has always been, the fact is, we'll make sure that the resources are going to be there. The question I would ask right now is, what does that ultimately mean? Is the position, specifically the part-time position for the MOXIE coordinator, supposed to be funded from the festival? Is it supposed to come from funds that actually can be tapped from economic development? Or is it supposed to be associated with Mark's budget? Because it is not in Mark's budget right now, and it is a miscommunication of where that ultimately lies.
That was more than one question.
We actually told our goal, we just never mentioned how to get there. I guess I'd ask.
Exactly right.
Yeah, so I mean, to me as a counselor, I'd ask Diane what our options are as far as funding it. I mean, I know there's a portion of the event that was financed through the Dingley TIF, because that was somewhat open a little bit at one point in time as far as for getting funds through there. I guess can you kind of give us our options, Diane?
Well, before you answer,
Sure.
well, this was a point of discussion at the workshop. So when we wrapped in July and we did that workshop, point blank, this was a point of discussion. We made it very clear to Mark at that time that the funds that were allocated for the coordinator when they were hired on into the ED's office, those funds would be allocated under the Rex umbrella. Now, wherever the funds came from to hire that position the first time around, if it was out of the ED's office, that's where it should be coming from. That's what I'm saying. That's what we talked about then. I know at point blank, if we got to pull a tape from that workshop, let's do it. But I know that's what we talked about.
The question was, I don't think that those funds really ever got pulled through, did they, that first time? Because it never got hired and fully fulfilled. That was the
So
question.
how do we allocate a position without funding it? It's my question.
You're sitting on the hot seat with us, right?
No.
I guess I know what you mean about
Let's back it up. When we
Yeah.
talked about this, when we did this for July of last year, that was a post-mortem on the previous, which the position had already been put in at that point.
So
if we put it in,
So the question
Where's
is
the money coming
basically is we actually have we have hired a person to actually help with the MOXIE Festival that has a dollar figure attached. And we just need to know where the check is going to come to pay for that event, that part of it. Whether or not it's something that
Whose
was,
budget's it coming from?
or just in general where it's coming from, right?
I don't know why this is a mystery, though.
Yeah.
I really don't get why this is a mystery. If this position was funded out of the ED's office previously,
It would have come from the Dingley TIF.
there, so we know where so now we know where the
Got the
funding
trail.
is.
Got the
This
trail.
isn't any magic shell game here. If it moves from one to another, that's the money follows along to fund it. It doesn't come out of the MOXIE money. Sorry.
Is there adequate funding to be able to pay for that position out of that same
Out
source?
of the Dingley?
Yeah,
Yes.
Dingley.
And do
So
we have
is
to
that
do any-
designated
and do
from-
we have to do any other paperwork to make that happen in a sense? Not really, because it's kind of, before there was just a $5,000 figure
Right.
that came
Well,
out of
yeah,
that.
we allocated 5,000 for the Moxie.
To change that to
Yeah,
actually
no, all you have to
accommodate.
do, we can add it to the agenda Tuesday night, and you can say that you're going to allocate funds from the Dingley TIF to pay for the Moxie coordinator.
I'm gonna make the motion. Making sure we can't do it in a workshop.
Can't
Can't do it in a workshop.
Put it on the agenda.
That's it.
Put it on the agenda.
I think one of the things we just got to just look at is, I mean, this is kind of a new year. I mean, it's a new take on the Moxie to just see how this year rolls.
My name's
through
Mark
and actually-
Stevens, and I'm the Parks
Yeah.
Recreation Director.
You are?
I want to thank you for trusting us with the Moxie Festival. We are really excited. We have a lot of things going on, and I don't have enough time to go through everything, but we will have a 3-day festival. Dan Lehman is going to be our Sunday coordinator.
Oh, Dan.
And
Nice work.
we have some great, incredible surprises coming down the pike with that. But that's part of what I want to thank you for. Also thank you for trusting us with the Parks Department a couple years ago, because that's been a whole new ball game for us, literally. And you know,
We can get a new dump truck.
it's, I mean,
New
the
used.
one that
New
won't
to
get a
him.
sticker.
New to him.
The one that won't get a sticker, yeah. And I was going to mention that. You know, we're frugal, and I think that's great for our town, because, you know, the trucks that we do get, I mean, we're still the best truck in our fleet was a $5,000 truck we got from the auction 8 years ago.
Hey, don't slow my roll.
I like the truck. It's, you know, we keep it in good shape, but you know, it's a 2002, and
Right, it's a reality.
that was one of the things Lydia was talking about, and I think Diane was going to. We were talking about, you know, maybe trying to. I think that was one of the things you were going to work on getting out of the.
Fund balance.
Yeah, the fund balance.
Undesignated.
Fund balance. So, you know, with that said, I mean, we appreciate the 2 full-time staff that we got last year. We have been very fortunate to have Alin and Wesley. Wesley's been working with Public Works, taking care of some of the parking lots and walkways during storms, keeping Beaver Park groomed, and also keeping the ice rink. We finally had our year where we have a very good ice rink at MTM, and we're looking at improving that as well next year. Those are the things that we've benefited from last year, since last year, and I could go down through my goals, but I think
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for allowing Mark to be able to stay to address that question, because quite specifically it assists us. We have a Moxie committee meeting next Monday night, and that question, I don't want it to be able to slow the enthusiasm of the committee that's actually doing great things. So putting that behind us to be able to discuss that, thank you. 7:58.
Are you done with his budget?
No.
Oh,
No,
okay,
no,
so
no,
he's
we're
going to
still
come back
pushing up.
Tuesday
I
night.
told you we had one
He
question.
just wanted that
Okay.
one piece to go through. So.
He may not have to bring some.
If
of
you
his
want,
staff
I
next
mean,
time.
I like the fact that maybe what you could do is since you teased on some of the things that were coming, maybe you could bring us up to speed on those on Tuesday when you come back.
Okay.
That would be fun.
Okay.
Understand some of the new stuff that's coming down the pipe from Moxie and beyond.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
People are all doing a great job.
You've done a great job with your whole program over the past 25 years. You've really, 27, yes. I mean, it's really great to see what you've been doing.
Yeah, who's counting though,
Such a
right?
little
The first
start
2
to
years were a little
really
light.
great program.
He said what he said.
Who's counting?
This beats 10 o'clock, I'm telling you.
We good?
Told you we could.
Well, so when we don't make a
Oh,
motion to
man,
adjourn,
some of
because
that
it's a
shit was
workshop,
really
so you
streamlined.
don't dodge. Thanks for playing. No, so I mean, seriously, sticking to this, I think it's going to be better for us. We're going to get more meaningful conversation. We could have went on. We could have plowed through this. We would have been nothing really would have.
Cassie would be underneath the table.
By 9